And we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 87 of Fans of Power. I am Joe Amato, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Tyler T. Rex Baker. What's up, T. Rex? You ready for the show tonight?
Episode 87. 87 was a good year.
Go ahead, do it. I was waiting for this, so go ahead and hit us
Yeah.
with 87.
We
Why
got
was it
live
good?
action He-Man movie. We got Predator. We got RoboCop. We got Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. I don't give a damn what people say. I still like that movie.
Oh, God.
Just name a few things there. We got one of the greatest waves of He-Man toys in 1987. So it's a great year, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of some of the great things that came out in 1987. When I think of 87, so that was just kind of my random uh, foods for thought.
Well, yeah, there were some good ones there. There was a definite stinker in there for me, but otherwise, yes, I say you're pretty much.
As I recall, I don't think you've even seen Superman 4: Quest for Peace. Am I
Oh no,
right?
I have. No, I have. And it's a hot mess. It got
Well,
it.
of course it is. Once you realize, just as you get it as an adult, you realize, like, dear God, there's mistakes all over the place. But
But
when you learn what was going on behind the scenes, you understand why it is the way that it is, and it wasn't just like, oh well, I think this would be great for the scene. I think this would be great for the film. Let's do this instead of that. No, 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 no. There was tons of budget constraints for this movie because it was done by Canon as well. Not to
well,
say that it's the best Superman movie of all time, because it certainly isn't.
right. We
But
won't mention about budget should have nothing to do with bad writing of having her breathe in space. But whatever, it's still.
I did find I ain't quite sure that was I think written as it was, and I think they just went along with it because partly by that point. So yes, that is one of many big mistakes in Superman 4. I'm not going to argue that, but and it is. I mean, it's like, as a child, I bought every bit of that. To me, that was what a Superman movie should have been, because I didn't see the first one for much years later.
Right.
But I bought every bit, and as an adult, I'm like, there's mistakes all over the place. But Mariel Hemingway is so hot in the movie. I'm like, she can breathe in space for all I care.
It doesn't matter
Her
exactly.
hair and stuff like that. Well, she's rocking. So yeah,
All
she's so hot. Yeah, she can breathe in space.
all right. Well, as for things that we're going to talk about, we have three different topics. We're going to do some character profiles of two particular people. We're going to do some hypothetical thing, and we're going to do some mystery battles. But I figured, you know what? We usually wait on doing the character profiles for the end. But I tell you what, how about we start off with our character profiles right now from the get go? Because I want to get right into them. And that's the Comet Warriors, Stonedar and Rokkon. And first, let me just say, I just said the Comet Warriors or the Rock People, but they're not the Rock Warriors. They're not these guys. These are the Rock Warriors that have nothing to do with Stondar and Rokkon. They're not called the Rock Warriors.
I call them the Rock Wars. I call them the Rock People. I call it the Comet Wars.
No, you don't call them the Rock Warriors. They're
Every
not.
way that I choose to.
Why? Why would you call them the Rock Warriors when they're never called the Rock Warriors?
Because that's what they're called in the commercial that they're advertised in.
No, they said the Comet Warriors are coming in that commercial. I almost can guarantee it. I think they said the Comet Warriors.
No. I'm not the teaser commercial where it says, comets come from the skies. Stone All Rock comes in. No. I'm talking about the actual commercial where they're depicted fighting Grizzlord.
I swear they still
transform.
I wish there was somebody that could be here with us, because I thought they even
said on YouTube. Look, I'm not saying they call them both.
No,
the same scenario here where we're arguing over Caverns of Fear, where you were right and I were right, but we were not aware of it.
Well, the thing is, I actually think that in that commercial for both of them, they did mention that Comet Warriors have landed or arrived in both, in the preview one and in the actual one. I think the actual one where they found Grizzlord, I thought they said the same thing. I could be wrong, but
I think if I run the commercial through my head real quick, it's well, I know that the narrator calls it Rock She Transformed. That's
right. They did say that.
Yes.
All right. Because like I said, I guess that's my pet peeve. Almost like how you always say, I hate when they call the heroic warriors masters of the universe. And I say, Tyler, they called them that in the original mini comics and a lot of the books. You're like, I don't care. They're the heroic warriors. So you have a pet peeve, and I
no. Because you know damn well that when people are referring to them as the masters, they're taking reference to MYP's.
Not me.
Form. They're not quoting the first four mini comics, and that
and
they're
books. In other books, they do it. They've done it in a lot of the old books. So
people that use that, they're not referencing or quoting that. They're quoting MYP.
We're going to have to find out who they're referencing. We're going to have to see which they're referencing, because I actually am. When I say Masters of the Universe, I'm actually talking about the old stuff. But maybe the newer people, maybe they are saying MYP. I don't know.
You have to be aware too that at one point it's going to be all of them. At one point it's going to be just the Evil Warriors. All the Skeletor Crew were considered Masters of the Universe. It flip flops all over the place. Not to say that everybody's not entitled to that interpretation, but I'm saying the majority of people who used to call them the Masters, they're referencing MYP. They're not referencing any of the vintage stuff.
I'd like to know that. I'd like to have a good
just like the
poll.
Same group of douchebags who think it's cute and clever to say that Battlecat and Orko would have made the 87 movie great.
Well, you never know. I mean, I'd like to do a little poll on that. They'll see what they're referencing. But as for me, with the Comet Warriors, I mean, I'm used to what they were called, actually on their actual card backs, and in some of the comics, and the reference of saying Comet Warriors, and they're called Rock People. But if people call them Rock Warriors, hey, I can understand too, because
Rock doesn't bother you as much as Rock Warriors.
What's that?
It's all right to call them Rock People, but not
yeah,
Rock
because.
Warriors.
Yeah, because I've seen them called Rock People, like on the mini comic, and in mini comics they're referred to as the Rock People. So I'm used to that. But we got somebody in the live chat, Daniel Maynard. He actually says I call them Rock People or Rock Warriors. So hey, that should make you feel good, Tyler. See, there's somebody that does say Rock Warriors.
I'm not sitting there trying to say that it's my way or the highway. That's what you're trying to do, right?
No, that's.
I'm saying I'm cool with all of them there. I'm not going to put them in camps and separate them from the rest of the group because they don't refer to them as, Rock People.
But that's what you do with the Masters of the Universe people. You hate those people. You always throw them into the MYP category.
I don't put them in camps and separate. No, I just say stay out.
All right. Well, we're going to start off with these guys. So first, let me just say, the toys. I mean, first, yes, I remember the commercials. It freaked me out. You love those preview things of when they would show, they're coming, or and then finally when they landed. I don't know the fascination of just how it was so cool just to take, and you think it's, oh wow, it's so simple. All you're doing is moving them from a rock to a person. But God, it was so cool. It was cool to see a figure kind of transform into a rock, and then, playing them out, putting them by Castle Grayskull or Eternia, making them like they're hiding, just like they were in the cartoon. I mean, not in the cartoon, well, yes, eventually cartoon, but I mean like the commercial, to where, they're like this, they're talking to Grizzlord, and suddenly they pop up. I mean, how cool is it to have a rock, a comet that can attack like that, and also be a warrior? I mean, were you introduced to toys first, cartoon first? How did you first get into the comic?
I only had Stondar as a kid. I got them at my local Hills, where I got the majority of a lot of my He-Man figures was at Hills and Stondar.
Where the toys are, yeah, Hills where the toys are.
Hills. I could, all three Snake Men were gotten their Man at Arms, Cyclone, Rio Blast, the New Adventures of He-Man toys. Hills is where I got a lot of my He-Man stuff. But I never saw Rokkon in person until I purchased him, I think, from Figures Inc., which is a toy store that's no longer in existence, I don't think. Maybe it is. Well, I mentioned before, this is a store that was selling a lot of He-Man toys for $20 a piece, which was like Scareglow, Mosquito, or Plant Champ. Rokkon was one of them. So I ended up getting him, I think, when I was in either 8th grade or early years of high school.
Okay.
So it was a long time before I came across him. But I thought Stondar was an awesome toy. Plus, that's one of the reasons I never really got into Transformers, the toy line. Like, I like the cartoon, but the toys, I feel like I needed a PhD to transform these things. I'm like, I want to get to it. I don't want to sit here and spend a good 15, 20 minutes trying to transform this thing before I can get to the actual battle here. So, Transformer fans make me feel dumb because they can sit there, do it together. All right, Starscream's ready to go. Okay, he's ready to go. But with Rokkon and Stondar, it was it's
yeah,
not that I compared it, but looking at it, I mean, you didn't feel like it was hard to do. It was just simple,
right?
Like the Rock Lords. So like Rock Lords, which was like the spinoff from the GoBots. I thought those were cool because they were easy to transform as well. But I thought it was a great concept. I hate hearing years on the internet. A lot of the fan community seems to piss on the Rock people, and I don't know why. Like, they just label them as like Transformer knockoffs, and I'm like, just like with Snout Spout and Stinkor and certain characters, I'm like, why do you guys piss on them? Why? I mean, you telling me they look bad? You know,
Yeah, 'cause it was a new, like you said, it was a new, original, cool concept for Masters of the Universe. We didn't have anything like that, so I thought it was absolutely fascinating. I mean, sure, like you said, the Transformers fans, yes, theirs were very, like intense in detail. They had a lot of steps to transform. These just bing, bing, nice and quick for, I guess, the gimmick they were trying to come across. And whether they were, let's say, ripping off Transformers or not, it still was cool. I don't see how, nobody could have a fun
well,
time.
it would be kind of foolish to not, look at Transformers back then and see this is a humongous hit. How can we incorporate this into our toy line that's making money? I mean, it's like, I think it was a good thing. Why would you ignore that? I wouldn't necessarily say that they have to have, some sort of a straight up grunt commando infiltrating, the He-Man toy line, because GI Joe was so popular as well, because He-Man was doing quite well regardless of GI Joe. But Transformers being the mega hit that it was, I mean, I don't take offense to that. Mattel couldn't come up with something on their own that was not copying the Transformer craze, because you had GoBots, I think, before Transformers, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, go about before.
So a lot of stuff had a transforming gimmick. So I think for people to just label it as a Transformers knockoff, I'm like, I think Transformer toys got people's attention on a grander scale, as opposed to like, well, Transformers was not the first. So, but point being that I love the concept. These two characters are played up as it's like a race of people that are landing on Eternia. And I mean, why wouldn't you want, and plus it'd be really cool to see an evil Rock Warrior.
It would have been great. I would have loved to see more.
We gotta have a female. I'm like, okay, well, you have Grenada. She's in the cartoon. I'm sure you get her toy for something. But what about an evil Rock Warrior?
That would have been cool.
No, what evil warrior or evil person from that race?
Yeah, because the closest we got was, of course, remember the Comet Warriors, Stonedar and Rokkon. Remember, they arrived story-wise with the Meteorbs, and of course, with the Meteorbs, we got 5 heroic, 5 evil. So, of course, they weren't in the same scale. Now, that's what's funny is, I do remember Transformers. I wanted to have those toys when I was a kid, but we could only afford one toy line. So when I got, the Meteorbs, those were a little more technical in the way they transformed. So I felt like, hey, I am kind of getting a Transformer type thing in Masters. Those felt more Transformer-like to me than Stondar and Rokkon, because the Meteorbs actually involved steps. I mean, you needed no, I guess, I don't know, brain power to just take.
But it was simplistic, because the He-Man toy did not need. They didn't. Mattel obviously felt like they didn't need to make the transformation so complicated, because that's what makes it so good. You just fold them. I mean, to me, it's genius. It's not lazy.
Yeah.
It just folding the character down makes
it look like a rock. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay. I think that's a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
And it's a great, and they're two great characters. Rokkon is, as we've touched before. Prior to this, that they're they flip flop roles, where Rokkon is sometimes the leader, but I think most people would assume that Stondar is the kind of veteran leader of this race, and Rokkon is like the kind of the
hot-headed,
the hot-headed, the quick to jump into battle without thinking kind of type, which is a typical archetype that you would kind of look at or expect in a series like this.
And that's what I would want to stick with more. I mean, out of all the stories of anything, I like it with Stondar, because he obviously looks like he's older, toy-wise, cartoon, comic-wise. Yeah. But I like it as him being the leader. And, like you said, Rokkon, whether he's being the hothead or just, one of the other warriors. But I don't like, some of the other stories from, like, I think the newspaper, and I couldn't remember where else, but I know that they had it as Stondar was his father, Stondar, and then Rokkon is his son, and I think even Granada was his daughter. So Rokkon and I was like, I don't like all the related stuff. Why does everybody have, even the rock people, all have to be related? That one I didn't flip over. I just like it's a race of rock creatures, warriors, people, and they don't have to all be related. Just let them all have their own identities, their own roles. Makes it a little more fun. I don't like when everything has to be so personal.
I never understood why people want to quickly go for that. Like if they need like a shock value moment in their story, make two of these characters related. Make these two, heroes that are bumping heads all along, and as it turns out, they're really lost brothers. I'm like, why? Why do what just so you can? They have to rise above their differences here, and they got to join together. I'm like, no, it's been done to death, and I don't like. I hate that idea of making them related. It's like Stondar needs to be like the general or the just major representative of this race, and Rokkon is obviously high on the rank ladder, but obviously not as equipped and as intelligent as Stondar. Stondar's got that very, like you said, a very kind of mature, kind of chiseled face. It's very. I mean, they did an excellent job of drawing.
Looks mature. He actually looks. Yeah, he looks older. He does.
Whereas Rokkon has got a very youthful looking rock face. It was really, they did an excellent job on the sculpting on this guy.
Yeah, not only the face, but they played well off of, I think, that actually their bodies themselves. Like Stondar has more of the, kind of like gritty, kind of granite, rough look, and then Rokkon has the smooth kind of rock, and like I said, smooth,
and he has
young.
shine to him too. He's kind of chrome, kind of a feel to him there. But
I love the looks of them. I love the looks of the figures. I mean, it was so cool. And then when you finally started getting kind of like origins and then powers and what they explained of what they can do, I loved them in the stories because as you find out, they are a peaceful race of people. I mean, they're a peaceful race. They're like, they don't want war, but of course they're going to have to fight, to try to help at some point. But you see like how strong, like maybe their outer shells are. Like when I don't know if it was Landshark, when Skeletor was using Landshark or something to shoot at them at one point and they were like deflecting the blast, but then Skeletor said, now he's going to use his Havoc Staff, and they're even deflecting that like it's nothing. It's like they have impenetrable kind of like an armor, an outer shell. That kind of makes cool. It's like, man, if these things were wanting to fight, you'd be in trouble. And I think you could see why Skeletor or Evil Warriors would want them on their side because they're kind of unstoppable to some level.
Well, plus it really builds up the fact these guys are essentially comets, like a meteorite almost. Like they're not like your standard rock that can be easily destroyed by a weapon of Skeletors or even by E-Man or something like that. That these guys have got, I mean, thick cosmic armor on them. Obviously it's probably part of their body too. Because I don't like the idea of them being able to detach their rock. I mean, to me, like that's part of their body. That's how they are created. That's
if you're kind of giving.
I don't want to see the rock guys running around and digging too deep into this, but I'm just saying, like I like to think of that as like that's part of their body. That's how they're made up of. I don't want to see Stonedar and Rokkon walk around without the rock headpiece and the shoulders and the leg piece. I'm like, I want to know that that's
them.
When they sleep, they probably fold over into rock form.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, the same thing. I like that as being that, like you said, it's their body. It is them. That's what they are.
Yeah, and the rock formation is like a dormant phase, like when they're traveling through space, they're sleeping, or clearly trying to play up as a sneak attack, so to speak.
Because in the cartoon, they looked kind of more person or human like, right?
Because they definitely made it. And when I first saw it, I was not too impressed. Of course, it was a lot of hype to finally see if the rock people were like in the She-Ra cartoon. When I finally saw it, it was like, oh, that's
it was awkward. It was weird. I mean, like you said, them taking off their rocks would be the equivalent of Spikor taking off his chest and saying, oh, that's just an armor. I like to know that Spikor has these on him. That is his spikes. And the thought of if he took off his spikes, it's the equivalent of the Comet Warriors taking off their rocks. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, it's someone trying to be cute and clever and trying to over-explain these things. I'm like, no, if you're trying to be funny or informative, well, then I just assume that Spiker sleeps on a bed of foam, soft foam or something like that, something that he could probably easily remove himself from. And I don't want to see the Rock Warriors taking off their gear and they look like a couple of little scrawny, I don't even know how you describe like their interior body. It looks very human-like.
It defeats the purpose of who they are, especially if they're going to be people.
No, don't do that. I don't like the idea of Clawful can make his claw large or big or remove it, and he's got a small claw underneath.
Like I said, it defeats their whole purpose of any of their gimmicks. They all have the gimmicks for a reason, and for them to, like you said, have things taken away from who they are, it makes them less of who they are. So I don't enjoy any of the thoughts of that.
No, but it's a faction I would love to see explored more. Like I don't want to know like a whole lot of details, other than like if you were going to bring more of them, have them land on Eternia. Like already have Stonedar and Rokkon established as like a faction that may come and go from Eternia to their planet, but don't over-explain it because it's just like I've said something before. I'd like to have a mystery. I'd rather have discussions about where they come from, and that there is evil on their planet. What does evil on their planet look like? Do they look like lava rock formations? Like black rock with like kind of lava streaks inside them, or do they? Various. I mean, other types of comet. I mean, just black, or I just feel like there's we need to get because people illustrating some evil rock people. That's what we need to see. But
no, that would be nice.
Yeah,
because
but
what
to
we get
expand more of the ranks of the Rock Warriors, give us a couple more heroes, and then give us a faction of evil Rock Warriors. Just because I think that would be interesting to see. What does evil look like on their planet? They come from a planet of Comet Warriors. Then it's safe to say that there's some evil Comet Warriors.
Oh, there has to be. Yeah, I mean, you definitely think that. Especially, I mean, like when you think of Escape from the Slime Pit, and I'm sure in some other mini comics, I mean, we've seen like the female pink one, we've seen the green one. I mean, it would be nice, like you said, to have more of them because I always like I did a custom. Not to always go back to my customs, but I remember I had to make a custom of that female pink one. I called her Quartzina because I mean she had kind of a pinkish reddish tone. I had just a whole gimmick, but I always thought, man, that would be a nice faction to have a bunch of them because then you could picture if this peaceful race, when they do have to fight, now let's get into battle and see what they could all do. I mean, what's funny is they're a peaceful race, but they sure, like I said, beyond having the indestructible outer shell, which it seems like they pretty much have, they also have, like, when they open up, a blinding light. Remember, they were blinding Modulok and some of the Horde to where they couldn't even see. They also, they come with a weird gun, one that attaches to their chest, or they can hold it in their hand. So, being peaceful, they still have a weapon, at least toy-wise. So, they could be ready for battle. And to have a big army of them would be great. I love army building stuff, and just the thought of a lot of Comet Warriors would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's just kind of like a little bit of a character development for them, since that they're a peaceful race, but obviously, and Rock people to the rescue when they show up. First thing Rokkon says is, "What's Skeletor up to? I can't wait to get at him." And that shows you right there that at least in that story, these guys are not they're not unfamiliar with fighting or dealing with, or the simple fact that they're aware of Skeletor and that they probably have fought him. Maybe in another planet when Skeletor's off doing one of his space destruction missions or something like that.
I got something for you real quick, T-Rex. There's somebody in the chat room. It's Third Triumvirate. Oh, I'm sorry, I probably screwed that up. Studios. He said, didn't Marlena encounter a meteor shower when she was in her shuttle? He said, would have been cool to learn that they were rock people. He said, my memory might be off on that, but what do you think?
It was an asteroid shower.
Well, pretty much.
Thing, but yes,
that would be kind of cool if there could have been some tie-in with that, like maybe some of the evil.
Yeah, then maybe a small group of the Comet Warriors were going in that direction. The same thing as Marlena, like some of them were going to migrate to Eternia.
Yeah,
and land and set up a base like far away from the majority of civilization that most people probably wouldn't even be aware that they were around. So that and I like that idea. I like if you're going to tie it in. Do a fun nod to that because there was an asteroid shower that she was trapped in, which just happened to be maybe some Comet Warriors that were that were in dormant mode and waiting to kind of coordinate their landing on Eternia, and she got caught in it or something like that.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, because I thought they tied some nonsense. I'll be honest, I absolutely wiped out all the classic bios out of my mind. I'm just trying to remember. I thought Rio Blast.
No. Not even going to address that happy horse, Well, add a nice word that goes at the end of the word horse.
You knew what I was going to say with Rio Blast.
People who listen to this figure out what I'm trying to say with them because I don't want Doug to do more work than he already is doing for us.
Right, got to keep it clean. But no, the Comet Warriors, like I said, we never got really much of them. And again, another faction that was ignored, when MYP came out. I mean, we never got to see them in a cartoon. We never even got to see them in staction form because obviously we didn't get them in figure form for 2000X.
Oh, man. Had the Horsemen made the stactions in, I mean, like those two would have been massive. Like they would have been probably the size of Clawful almost. I mean, because you think like a comet, I mean, you're thinking a big rock. I mean,
And they
I
get
think
their
anything.
liberties. They always get to take their liberties. When they were doing those stactions, especially, they put the craziest details, like for Mosquito and Tongue Lasher and Snakeface and all of them. So, like you said, that they wouldn't have been almost the same height and everything. They would have had different heights, a crazy pose, just crazy details. Oh, it's just
I feel like width-wise, it'd have been wide as Clawful. Because, I mean, Clawful was a power, or Leech. I mean, those two guys are humongous. I'd like to
yeah.
see Stonedar and Rokkon, at least in that line, relatively close. I mean, well, the classics version, I mean, they're humongous, and they look awesome, like a couple of badasses. And I feel like had they been done in staction form, they'd have been as big as Leech or Clawful, just, width-wise. Just because
Man.
that's what you want to see in staction form of those, at least me personally.
A
So,
quick little side rant just to say something. I mean, we already know that Super 7 obviously is touching the 5.5-inch vintage type line. They're doing everything that you can think of. But this is still something I think that could be really a cool collector's line if they wanted to really, maybe it could be limited. I'd love to see the Horsemen return to finish off the stactions we didn't get. Because there was so many of them that, remember, we didn't get a Ninjor, we didn't get the Comet Warriors, we didn't get Blast Attack. I mean, there's plenty of them we didn't get, but that's something I would really love. I mean, that's probably still one of my favorite lines are those stactions. They were probably just the most detailed things I've ever seen. I just loved, like I said, that they have such free range to do whatever they want when they made them. That would be a cool spin-off thing. If Super 7 could get with the Horsemen to do that, I'd back it. I don't know about you, but I would love to see them give some of those, in return for Super 7 somehow.
uh, at this point, I'm kind of over the whole, I mean, MYP thing. Not degrading it or any by any stretch of the imagination. What I'm saying is that I'm so content with the classic line, and then going back and saying we're going to release some vintage style figures. I kind of feel like, you know what, I really, at the time I was absolutely just nuts for the Staction figures. I mean, I love them more than the actual toy line. I just thought these things are like, I want to see so much more. And at this point, I mean, it would be awesome.
It would be. I mean, I'd still want them. I mean, I'd still definitely.
I don't see myself hoping or requesting, or if I were asked a preference, it probably wouldn't come up. Not to say that it would be absolutely awesome to see it. It's just not something I've kind of like have past the point of like, oh man, I really wanted to see Jitsu and never got him, and I really wanted to see what other guys would have looked like in Staction form that never got.
I think I have to though. I gotta admit, I'd want. I mean, the thing is, like, if I had the choice of them continuing the little 3 3/4 Star Wars styles figures or giving us the Stactions or something, I'd love to have the Stactions if there was an option. Of course, all of them are great. Don't get me wrong, but I've always wanted those. I want to say one other thing. 2 weeks in a row, I've done this, and I apologize because I usually take it out of the room. Eric Amon just mentioned, he said, oh my God, answer the phone and tell the president you are busy and he'll have to wait to consult you on foreign policy advice. I apologize, Eric, because I heard the phone ringing 2 times in the background. And I usually take the phone and just stick it out of the room while I do the podcast. That's my fault. I apologize. Hope it didn't annoy you.
Is the president calling about his custom? I was like, now, Joe, I've told you. I purchased this back in November. Why haven't you finished my custom?
Exactly. So, no, I do apologize for that. I'm sorry. I did not mean to have that phone ringing during the podcast. I hope it wasn't a distraction. That was my fault. So, I own up to that.
It may be a mood killer for a lot of people when they hear that phone going. like they're knee deep in this. They're popping the popcorn or whatever.
And ringing.
Fun food, snacks, and drink. And they hear that phone ringing, like, oh, damn it, and just.
That's it. They said, I'm done. Not listening to the podcast.
I'm going to bed.
Exactly. Like, I'm done. Forget the podcast. So,
or someone's listening to the gym to take the phone off and they throw it off to the side. I can't listen to this. If you guys get the phone ringing all the time.
That's right. So, well, that was our discussion.
Listen to us at the gym. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's our Stondar and Rokkon discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Now, we're going to transition to something else. We're saving this one thing for last, but right now we have mystery battles. I have 2
mystery fights.
Mystery fights. Okay. Well, I was saying mystery battles because like a total of you and I, but mystery fights.
You call it mystery battles. I'll call it mystery fights.
All right. Well, I just thought, if we abbreviated, you're saying mystery fights, MF might be a little dirty, and MB, you could do that.
We are R-rated podcast, Joe. Did you forget that rating? We
are rated R.
That R rating proudly on our hearts.
All right, well, here we go.
We
We're
are the
going into
only
the.
R-rated He-Man podcast, and I'd like to keep it that way. I don't want us to be all 4-H club light and fluffy.
All right, well, we're going to go into the mystery fights. And as for the mystery fights, I have a fight involving two people, and so does Tyler. Neither of us know who it's going to be, but I'm going to present mine to him. He's going to tell me who he'd think in the, he'd win, which would win in the fight and why, and then he'll shoot one at me. So I had the choice of the Evil Horde and the Evil Warriors. So I'm picking two that I've heard sometimes always matched up against each other. Who do you think would win, Tyler? Grizzlor against Beastman. Pretty much the two ferocious savages. Who's your winner and why? What do you think would happen in that fight?
Beastman, because I feel like if Beastman was finding himself in a pinch, like physical strength wise, he'd call in a couple of animals and just dog pile on Grizzlord. Like I think from a physical standpoint, I could probably see Grizzlord taking down Beastman, but Beastman would exploit his power over animals and call in probably the nearest any random creatures to come by, like large snakes, dragons, because that whole idea of he can or cannot control dragons is up for debate. But I think he would probably exploit that and win based on that. But if we're just going, if which our intention for this was putting these two guys in a wrestling ring and say go, you're not giving any weapons, just go. I'm gonna say Grizzlord.
So in that aspect, if no weapons, no other thing, no help,
no powers, you're going skill against skill alone, as Andre the Giant said in Princess Bride. I'm gonna say Grizzlord.
Yeah, and see, what's funny is because again, in my head, I was having so many different visions of this fight. Because what got me more into it, is the depiction of Grizzlord that you see in mini comics, and even his psychotic looking, as I always say, critter looking card back. He looks nuts. He looks like he would rip you to pieces. Like his claws and his fangs are just so lethal and sharp that it would just shred your skin off like nothing.
Well, Beastman, when the He-Man toy line started, from like books and everything, Beastman looked. I mean, that's why I kind of feel like
it's just I'm saying the Horde, the version of Grizzlor from the cartoon, he took me out of all the other visions of Grizzlor because he had this kind of tight, cleaned up kind of fur, if you will. He never.
Yeah, but there's a Grizzlor bear hugged He-Man, and He-Man struggled to get out of his grip. Beastman has not done that in the Filmation card. He has done that with Prince Adam.
Prince Adam, yes.
With He-Man, and Grizzlor can physically grab a hold of He-Man and hold on to him for a lengthy amount of time.
Oh, that is something, but it's just, again, the look. Sometimes the look took me out of it. He never seemed intimidating, but if there was to be battles, like you said, and I'm seeing the savage-looking Grizzlor, the furry, the nasty, the psychotic, I can envision that one just being a beast, like he's almost unstoppable when he's coming at Beastman to shred him to pieces. Then I wondered, well, if Beastman, would he be able to use any bit of his mind control on Grizzlor? Would Grizzlor have too much animal, or is he still enough of way of human thinking? Because you wonder how much.
Well, if that's the case, then if you're going by the logic that he could control many faces because of monster mode, then he probably. Well, no, then he'd be controlling anybody he wants, and that kind of defeats the purpose. I think he's controlling animals. He's not controlling people who clearly have a human-like brain. He's controlling animals and creasts and beaches that can't talk. They don't. They live on instinct, and so probably no. I couldn't see him. Which I think with the whole thing with Man-E-Face is like that was just a fun part of the story. Whereas if that were the case, he would be able to control Merman. He could control Stinkor because he's a skunk. He could control Grizzlor and Leech and probably Montana. He could control Panther. If that were the case, but I like to think that Beastman only has control over animals. Period. Like not
human-esque type animal warrior people. Yeah,
like characters. No, so that's where I feel like, and people could argue that. I mean, that's what makes this a very.
It's just a fun debate. It's where no one's right, no one's wrong. It's just fun little hypotheticals. But no, when it would come to, I guess, a raw one-on-one fight, and we'd have one of the psychotics going against the other. If I'm putting in the head of what I have as Grizzlor in my mind, I could picture him being very, very ferocious. Because I see him in the comics, and at least that card back in my mind, I see him more ferocious, and psychotic than Beastman. I almost see Beastman a little more methodical of thinking, but I feel like just Grizzlor is off the hook nuts. Like he would just be gone in those comics and other depictions, compared
to. You could bounce this back because if you had Beastman from the early episodes of He-Man versus Grizzlor, for the most part, Grizzlor would, it could be argued that Grizzlor was not given the best stuff to work with even early on. Whereas Beastman was given a few moments of like the kind of guy that would stab Skeletor in the back, was successful in Prince Adam No More. Whereas, Grizzlor, they portrayed so many of the evil horsemen as just schmucks, guys that Hordak hits his button, sends him down, to the lake below, the fright zone. But
I will admit though, if they had like the use of, if Beastman had the use of his whip, I'd almost want to give an advantage to Beastman because he knows what he's doing with that whip. I could see some really fun, interesting fights and things that he could be doing with that whip to tangle up Grizzlor, throwing him off to the side, holding him at bay.
But then, see, that's what we said. This is no weapons in this.
Yeah, no, you're right. You said it was no weapons.
But doing that, then you have like MYP Grizzlor versus MYP Beastman, and frankly, I think MYP Grizzlor would tear MYP Beastman a new one.
Well, you know what's
NYP Beastman, he's big, but he's dumb. He's stupid. Whereas we're given very, very little of Grizzlor. But, he just looks so imposing and intelligent. Especially that Staction figure. It looks like this guy goes out hunting for people with all the variety.
Yeah, I guess if you go MYP, because he had, like 1 million weapons with that Staction.
He's standing. It looks like he could be as tall as Leech, if not possibly taller. Whereas Leech is just a big powerhouse.
What could have been?
Looks like he's tall, intelligent.
I would have loved to know what they would have shown.
Wants you to hunt down Man-at-Arms, and he goes out only hunt with his knives.
Because he seems like a hunter. You're right, especially when you have the
Staction.
He seems like a hunter, and we never got to see what would he have been like in MYP. And that's a shame, because that would have made, the hypothetical battles even more, I guess, intense. Yeah. Because we could have known what would he have been about. Because you're right, to have that many weapons, I don't think he would have had a pea brain. He would have been somebody.
Well, plus, too, since he is the kind of in charge of Hordak's jail cells, like he's kind of like the security guard of the Fright Zone. Probably handles a lot of torturing too, with all those knives and stuff like that. I'd imagine he probably uses that stuff to torture, prisoners and things like that. Modulok probably comes in to do like technological torturing, but Grizzlor probably gets down to, straight raw torture.
Real quick, in the cartoon, I can't remember now. As for a toy, I know that all the Horde had their little crossbow gimmick, boom. Like I guess you assume, I don't know, one thing shoots out, or is it a blaster?
You have to pull it back and latch it on there, and it would just kind of jut forward once you kind of.
Yeah, so I'm envisioning like if in the cartoon, I don't think he had his crossbow for Filmation. Like, what would it have been like? Would he had a blaster that would have been a crossbow, like with beams? Would it have shot out one thing? Because could it be something Beastman would avoid if it's just a one shot, or would it have been just like a laser blast, doom, doom, doom? But hey, we've seen in the Filmation cartoon everybody avoiding laser blasts, so I just don't know what kind of weapon he could have had in Filmation. What did he ever have? Maybe a gun? Did he have something?
No, not really. He's pretty much just kind of all paws. He as far as I can, like when you first see him, he's in charge of the jail cells at the Fright Zone. He's like monitoring them, and I think just kind of beating on the console when He-Man gets loose, but or not He-Man. I think on Beast Island. I think it's on Beast Island. Maybe.
So was he a glorified security guard? Is that what he was? Was a glorified security guard, or?
Well, in that he's watching security, and it's either when He-Man gets loose, when Cal breaks him out, or when Bo and the rest of the crew are going through Beast Island and get out. He's unsuccessful at the traps. I think when Bo is firing arrows at like the cannon, laser cannons keep him from getting out. He gets pissed off and starts pounding on the computer board or keyboard. But he's not given a whole lot to do in that. But that's how he's depicted. I think in the toy line is he's in charge of Hordak's jail cell at the Fright Zone. So like with the toy, he's in charge of getting the guys in there and making sure they don't leave. You're not going to get past Grizzlor. And if you do, you got to face the beast monster kind of thing. So Grizzler to me is just a guy of brute strength. You know.
Yeah, and I guess you're right. I think that I agree. If it would just be a one-on-one battle, no weapons, no mind control, yeah, I think Grizzlor he takes it. Especially when I look at his card back, the psychotic one that I love more than anything. I love that
Well,
insane.
card back wise, I think Beastman's is stronger than Grizzlor's because Grizzlor looks awfully like fluffy and furry and stuff like that.
But he looks nuts.
Beastman looks like he's ready to. I mean, to take. I mean, and just lay in to He-Man and start.
He does, but Grizzlor just looks out of his mind, gone. You know how I am. I love crazy, and he looks crazy. He's fluffed out, but he looks razor sharp nuts. Like I said, I always
Grizzlor in the Hordak mini comic. That's a badass Grizzlor. Like
he's a big boy. He's a big boy in that.
Yeah.
He is. Yeah. He's a different look.
So there's a million ways to look at this where you could actually have this to me is something that you really couldn't have just one winner. You could have this come out different ways. Like I feel like people could argue
depending on
death.
Yeah, depending on canon situations, powers, weapons, you're right. It can always, like I said, there is no right and wrong, just something fun. But well, that was my one that I dropped on you. So now you're gonna have one for me.
Entering the ring first. Representing the Heroic Warriors is Stondar.
Okay.
And to follow him, the dastardly heel, a member of the Snake Men, is Squeeze.
Oh, you would do. Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't try to be clever and throw Squeeze, because in my mind, I love the power of Stondar. I mean, not only can he get the height advantage, if you will, he's a big hulking guy, but remember, he's the Tower of Power. When he says that, and when he does extend and gets, twice as big in every aspect you can think of, he's one of the most powerful people on Eternia. I mean, obviously, He-Man's the most powerful man, but Stondar is super strong. But then you would think, okay, now you have Squeeze. Squeeze might be able to lock him up and take, whoop, oh shoot, you didn't see nothing. You didn't see nothing. You see my mouth. Okay. Whew.
You guys see that big growth that was sticking out right there? I mean, it looked like it was about ready to pop.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, it's my jaw. It's like, oops. But so anyways, no, Squeeze could take advantage because you have somebody that has definitely the height advantage. And he has the strength advantage. But you have somebody that has arms that are like boa constrictors. And I could envision Squeeze going around his legs and then squeezing and boom, pulling him and knocking him down. And then he has the advantage to come on top of him and start choking him out. That's a strange one. I mean, I could see ones where maybe, let's say, if Squeeze tried to eventually get Stondar before he did his Tower Power thing. Like, let's say he locked him up when Stondar didn't extend. But then as he holds him, he says, I am the Tower of Power. And then he extends. Then he's taking Stondar with him. Then Stondar might be up in the air as a disadvantage. And then Stondar could be swinging him around by his crazy long arms and slamming him around and throwing him into rocks. That's a fun little one right there, too. It's all hypotheticals, but dang, I love them both. Those are two of my favorite vintage toys. I always left, and that's the thing, I have both of them in a pose. I have Stondar where he's extended out, and I have Squeeze where he's making an S. I always took his one arm one way and another way, so you see a big S as Squeeze's pose. I've left them like that since I was a kid on my shelf, and I've never unposed them. And now you're killing me, Tyler, because again, there's no right or wrong, but I'm thinking, who would I really enjoy wanting to see win that? Because they both could, but I want to go with Stondar just because I might have played with him just a little bit more of always winning and being the one that was almost He-Man's right-hand man. That was, for me, He-Man's right-hand man back then was Stondar, just because of his strength and things I envisioned him doing. As he got bigger, he would have such a height advantage to be throwing people across cliffs. He'd have, ways of getting to areas others couldn't. So, for my fun way of saying it, I guess I'm just going to go with Stondar. Even though Squeeze could get some cool advantages with those. Yeah, that's tricky. Extending parts could be at a disadvantage maybe at some point. But I'm going to go with Stondar.
All right. See, for me, Squeeze is an anaconda. And anacondas are an apex predator. Like, they have no enemies. Like, there's nothing that an anaconda cannot kill. If it gets a hold of you, it's going to crush you, and it's not going to let go until either it kills you or you just give up. And the thing with Stondar is that, what's interesting is that we don't know exactly how tall Extendar can go, and we don't know how wide a stretch Squeeze can go. Guess you have to assume that he's got this kind of standard arm. I mean, if you want to kind of, if you're going by just kind of the dynamic of the characters portrayed in the 80s toy line, they can only go but so high. Like Extender definitely is a lot taller than the rest of the group, where Squeeze can wrap up 3 figures as depicted on this card art, which shows you if he can hold 3 in 3, one of those 3 is Extendar. He's got Rear Blast, Extendar, and Snout Spout in his grip. I mean, and that, to me, that says that, not only is this guy, he's an anaconda, but he's strong enough to withhold 3 heroic warriors, one of them the Tower of Power, one a guy consisting of nothing but weapons all over his body, and a firefighter with an axe.
No, that's a heck of a way of doing it.
With a metallic trunk.
So, yeah, that is a way of depicting, definitely. It's just, how, beyond just like you said with wrestling, of like, going with, in a wrestling match,
See, now this guy could really put on the Anaconda Vice, not John Cena.
Oh, God, don't talk about it. But no, like how they always have, who is going to be that winner? Just when you think one wins, here comes another move, here comes another move. Almost like in a comic book with any of the Marvel movies, there's the fights and it keeps going, and finally there's that deciding factor. And for me, I just can always envision, maybe just for Extendar to win in his deciding factor, he would have to literally knock Squeeze out. I mean, unconscious. That's when I could envision, if he would keep rapping, and Extendar would, like get taller or get stronger and finally get an advantage. And like I said, to swing him and just keep slamming and slamming. Like maybe that would be Extendar's finale. He loses it and he grabs Squeeze by one of those arms and just bang, bang, bang into the ground until he starts crushing into the ground and there's rubble and gravel, and just lays him out to where he is completely unconscious and done. That's like my finale of it. Because you're right. I mean, otherwise, if Squeeze started squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, you figure.
I mean, well, obviously, Extendar's body is all metallic now, or and kind of cyborg-like. If Squeeze starts crushing joint after joint, like does not have to take him down at once, but he gets his grip wrapped up and breaks one of his elbows just because he will not let go. He's an anaconda. He's not going to let go, and he's got 2 of them there. If he severs any of those joints, Extendar's extension is pointless. I mean, it's dead. If he can't extend all of his body, he just steadily start working around, because anacondas will sit for a long period of time onto their prey, and I'd imagine Squeeze, would probably be doing the same thing if he wraps up Extendar's legs, to the point where he can extend his torso, which might be able to fight and try and pull him off. It's gonna be really, really hard to break that grip.
I just know that's what I meant when you brought this up. That was it was a good thought, because I was immediately thinking when you said it about obviously the grip of Squeeze. But I just want to envision, like I said, for my fight, of like who I think would win, I just want to give it to Extendar, because I figure if anybody besides He-Man could break the grip, I just would envision it being Extendar if he would call upon his power. And
I'm not saying. In my personal opinion, I picked Squeeze, but not because I picked Stondar simply because he would be extremely hard, because he's not human anymore. He's
also one of the strongest people. He's besides He-Man.
Yeah, he's up there with Fisto and Clamptrap to me, as some of the heaviest hitters, like physically.
Especially going from the mini comic of his origin, they mention of how powerful this man is. That's why he's one of the strongest warriors of the heroic warriors. That's why I would, like I said, for me, I figure he's the only one that could maybe give a fight to Squeeze where he could break the Anaconda Vice, if you will. If anybody could do it.
Oh, and he probably could, but I just kind of feel like Squeeze is such an overly powerful character. I mean, and I'm looking strictly from a vintage license, not MYP, where his hands turn into mouths themselves and latch onto you on top of detangling you up already.
Yeah.
If you're going to go that route, then it's like KO with Extendar. Like he'll go the distance with Squeeze, but I mean, Squeeze gets those extra mouths locked on there and wraps you up.
Here you go. You know what would have happened? Here we go. Let's play the filmation game. If Extendar and Squeeze were ever in the cartoon and they fought, Extendar would have grabbed Squeeze's arms and tied him in a knot and threw him off the side. You can picture something stupid like that, can't you? I could just envision that in the Filmation cartoon. How they always made Mantenna's eyes cross and not.
Yeah, they would use that gimmick over and over and over again. Or Snake Face, they grab a hold of the snakes and they tie them up in a big knot or something like that too. So
Yeah.
Squeeze would be the victim of a lot of filmation jokes where he gets his limbs tangled up in a tree or wrapped around a tree or wrapped up in himself or wrapped around the other Snake Warriors or something like that. But
Nonsense. A lot of nonsense.
from a one-on-one standpoint, I mean, I hate snakes. I hate them with a passion. But I look at the anaconda as like really, really hard to beat. And it could if others pick Extendar to win that fight, I'm like I wouldn't argue because Extendar is a severe badass. But I'm picking Squeeze based on his stamina and just the what he can do, like how wide a stretch and grip he can actually have to be able to hug three people and lock together. I mean, that's got to be a severe struggle for one guy, let alone three.
Those are some long arms. But I'll still, for me, I'm going to go with Extendar, and I like it, like you said, that we put each other on the spot. We didn't know what each was doing. We're going to continue doing these, like I said, whether it's every other week or something like that. We'll still do more. And real quick, what was it? In the chat room, JSP said we should mention Fisto versus Jitsu. Well, I'll tell you what, maybe if you tune in next week, we'll do Fisto and Jitsu. We'll put them in a fight.
The Jitsu next week, and we'll just throw that out there. If people like this, throw us a fight you want us to debate over, whether it's or an Skeletor or something like that. But we really wanted to kind of focus on the Warriors themselves, not necessarily like the flagship characters like He-Man, Skeletor, and Hordak, and King Hiss, because we all know those are the ultimate ass kickers. We wanted to keep the focus, really like on Spike or Blade, and Buzz Off, and Clawful, and Mechaneck, and things like that. Not to say we couldn't do that, but I always have so much fun talking about the variety of characters that make up all these factions, and not necessarily because we know He-Man's going to beat everybody in the end. That's just
right.
Be. And as for the Evil Warriors, that could be tossed around all over the place. Whether King Hiss and Skeletor team up to defeat Hordak, or Skeletor and King Hiss are too busy fighting each other, trying to backstab, and Hordak takes advantage of it, takes out both of them.
Hypotheticals are always fun, but we'll do it.
But this is just for fun. So Jitsu and Fisto, we'll keep that in mind for next week. And
definitely,
people like this, just send us messages on through Facebook or Messenger or on the YouTube feed or whatever, and let us know who you want to see us throw in the ring.
Any mystery battles you want, you go ahead. You let us know. We'll do that. So, now speaking of that, we're done with that. But this is leading into something good too. I put on my Facebook page the other day, I said, if they were ever to make a Masters of the Universe video game, and you had the choice of fighting game or a role-playing game, which would you choose? Now, on my wall, there had to be, 160, 70. I couldn't remember. There was a lot of replies. The majority said role-playing game, and which, don't get me wrong, I'd love a role-playing too, because as for role-playing, you could have turn-based role-playing, you could have online role-playing, just one single adventure role-playing. There's a lot of things good adventures too, but then when you come to fighting, not only would you have one-on-one stuff like, let's say, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Virtua Fighter, Tekken, you could also have side-scrolling beat-em-up fighters like Streets of Rage, Final Fight, and I don't know. I mean,
Turtles in Time, all the Ninja Turtle games.
Yeah, because those same things. Just like, that's how almost like Final Fights and the Streets of Rages, they did the same thing. When it comes to a fighting game, man, I don't get me wrong, I love role-playing games. Love those too. But I think if I had a preference, it's funny, we're speaking of fighting, I think I would like a fighting more because, I would love, first, I'd love the side-scrolling, beat-em-ups. Because, I don't know if you guys ever played Streets of Rage 2 on the Sega Genesis. That game was just insanely nuts. But, like, when you're speaking of Turtles in Time and all those others, just picture, like, at the end of each level, like you said, you could have Trackjaw, that would be one of the main bosses. And, of course, Merman, if there's a water level, Beastman. Of course, at the end of the game, of course, the main big baddie would be Skeletor. But, what if you had people join you? Just like how in the other games you could have, multiple people join you in the side scrolling. You could have, of course, there's going to be He-Man, then Tila can join in Ram-Man, and you could have a big assortment of people and special moves and little power-ups that you pick along the way. That'd be nuts. I mean, a one-on-one fighting game, I mean, who wouldn't love that too? But I'm a sucker for those side-scrolling beat-em-ups. I don't know about you, but I'm a sucker for those things.
That's my favorite game are those beat 'em ups. I mean, from Final Fight 1, 2, and 3, Peacekeepers, Turtles, the arcade game, Turtles in Time,
X-Men, Spider-Man,
the X-Men and Spider-Man game, which I just get hard nipples every time I play those games. Man,
awesome.
it's oh my gosh, those are just. I mean, the Captain America and the Avengers arcade game, all these little side scroll beat 'em ups. Because and Final Fight is probably the best example. Or the same thing with X-Men and Spider-Man. You get 4 characters to choose from. Obviously He-Man, and then you get like Fisto, Buzz-Off, Tila, or Mechanic, or Cyclone. It would just be so much fun to be able to pick between 4 characters, and you start off, it's probably like in the Mystic Woods. You have like this cool little prologue that Skeletor's taking over Castle Grayskull, and you got to work your way all around Eternia. You got to fight through various semi-stages before you get to the end boss, and it's Beastman. He bursts out like the that kind of a blonde-haired dreadlock guy at the first level of a Final Fight, where he's like, ha, 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 ha. Mm-hmm. He bursts out of the door, and he's like a lot bigger than everybody else.
Yeah, they like.
And having all these cannon fodder guys running around like various evil warriors, like little thugs here and slightly bigger thugs and really big thugs, and being able to run around and use power-up moves with He-Man using comes out, uses a power sword and powers up. Cyclone could spin around and smack people around. Fisto just does like a special pound them in the ground. I mean, you could do all kinds of great stuff. Just looking at the special moves they did in Final Fight, Peacekeepers, Fighting Force, the like X-Men arcade game where they have their special mutant powers. From Nightcrawler runs all over the screen, Colossus blows. I mean, unleashes. To do that with the He-Man characters, who the hell would not want that? I just
that would be bananas nuts. Yeah, because I know that there was an independent game that somebody made to where they almost tried to do a side-scrolling beating them up.
I always thought it was just some sort of like fun fan project where they kind of set up the side-scrolling.
It was. It was fun. It was fun. Don't get me wrong, but I would love a serious one because
I want this, and I always like those old Capcom graphics, or Konami, because they made some of the best ones where you're just moving from the left to the right, fighting just hordes and hordes.
Konami.
When the sequel comes along, you got to go to Etheria, and you can introduce She-Ra and a few like Natas and stuff like that. And I mean, imagine fighting all various types of horde troopers. At the end of each level, you fight Leech, you fight Dylamug, you fight Montana, and then you get to the Fright Zone. You have to fight them all over again. Then you get to Hordak's throne room, and he comes down and he starts changing his arm to various things.
They could keep making them over and over. I mean, they would just, like I said, be instant sellers because, I mean, like you said, when you have Konami, Capcom, Sega, I mean, they were just, for me, the 3 main people that made some of the best side-scrolling beat-em-ups ever. I mean, because, like on a one-on-one fighting, you could picture more intense moves. Like if they just had a one-on-one fighter, like let's say at the end, one of the special moves, because I said this to you the one time and I think you got a kick out of it, and you kind of were on the same page as me. Picture He-Man, you know how like at the beginning intro or any other times he does that walking up to the screen and pulls back and punches. You could picture his final move like he's walking up on Beastman sideways, but then the camera rotates like this. You see the back of Beastman and you see He-Man punch and knocks him like right into the screen or something. I think stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what we want to see. We want to see like if He-Man or Fisto or Clamshell or Cyclone, you do a certain I mean, because in Turtles, like you had to get real close to him, and it was almost like if you tapped it a certain way, you were guaranteed to throw the foot soldiers at the screen.
Yeah.
And just flying at you. I mean, it would be awesome to see, with like the cannon fodder, like he takes one of the Skeleton Warriors or Skelcons, 1, 2, 3, and then hurls back and hits them so hard they go flying right at the screen.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it would just be a fun little nod that anybody that you pick, it had the ability to, I mean, from Tila and Man-at-Arms.
Oh, it's even picture this.
If you get to certain points, you can unlock other heroic warriors to join in.
Which would be fun because Yeah, that, like I said, it jazzes up. And not only that, you know how all the other fighting games, you're bursting open this to find whether it's jewels or food or something.
Or like a
Maybe,
big piece of like, chicken or some sort of
yeah, the
protein.
chicken, like how
Yeah,
Beastman has that big turkey leg, when he's
yeah.
eating that. But picture this: maybe along the way, instead of like smashing things, maybe Orko would come flying out and use his magic and make things appear in front of you to where you could get that for a limited time. It would kind of be a way of implementing
Well,
his
see, I could
particular.
Orca doing something like that was in like one of the skills challenge where Orca presents you something and you got to sit there and beat the hell out of it and knock it out. Or he presents you
Yeah.
like these treasure chests. He mixes them around, flops them all over the place. You pick the right one, you get an extra life. You pick the wrong one, he just laughs at you, or egg falls in your face, or something like that. Just one of those little games that they had, like in Street Fighter or in Final Fight. After so many levels, you got to beat up a car
I
between
remember
you
the
and
beating the
your
car.
partner, and say whoever beats the car up the most
Oh,
gets
yeah,
some
and
extra
even like
points.
Golden Axe. I don't know if you remember playing Golden Axe.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
that game.
Golden Axe was a great one.
Yeah, you remember that those little gnomes that would go across, and you'd have to
Yeah.
kick them, and things would pop up, and you could almost picture some little gimmick game with Orko doing something like that too. Yeah, I forgot about Golden Axe. Shoot, that was a way of I always thought of He-Man when I played that. Sure, it wasn't He-Man, but it was fantasy,
And
adventures,
see,
or
and see, you
creatures.
saying that of Golden Axe, I would love to see this because we don't want to over. I mean, I almost feel like it would be cool to see He-Man is using.
On Battle Cat.
Well, no, it punches it first, and then you
Okay.
crack open certain things. You have the battle axe for a little while. You crack open certain things, you get the power sword back. You crack open, you get the flying fist. Like you wouldn't have them for so long. A
Limited
lot of
time
fighting
thing.
games you're given a
Yeah.
weapon to throw and fight with, like in the Final Fight games. And I just think it'd be so
Yeah.
cool to be able to, you get, I got the battle axe right now. I can slash and slash and slash. But
No, it would be cool. That's what
yeah,
I mean. And even at limited times, just like in Golden Axe, when like somebody would come along with a dragon or you got on a dragon, maybe there could be limited time on levels for whatever
yeah.
reason. Battle Cat appears and you get on him and he's attacking and pulling and slashing. But if he gets hit, 3 times, maybe he goes away, or just maybe he's just there as a limited time bonus thing for maybe
Or
20
like in
seconds.
Turtles in Time, there's a certain piece you pick up that's like a bomb. I think it's a bomb pizza. But when you hit it, you start spinning around and pizza power, and you're knocking out foot soldiers all over the place. Like you pick up a certain item, Battle Cat leaps in and starts mauling any
For
like
a limited time. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, just tearing them all. I mean, the possibilities are unlimitless with the side scroll being and with He-Man characters, with the Snake Man fighting hordes of like Snake Warriors before you get to each individual Snake Warrior to fight King Hiss. You fight him in human form first, and then you think he's dead. Then he pops back up and bursts the snakes, and then you got to fight him all over
And
again.
that's why it would be good to have, like you
All
said,
over the
if
place.
it would be hot, because who wouldn't love this stuff? I mean, no matter how you would release this, or I mean, release the game, people love it. But what's good about it is don't put it all into one game. Like you said, the first game maybe all revolves around Skeletor and his warriors. The second one maybe would be more of the Horde and their warriors. Then the Snake Men in the third, and then maybe a fourth would have like a big mishmash of all of them, or even other ones.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, you want to make like the fourth one, like they're all teaming up now. Now you're going to be fighting Beastman and Grizzler at the same time, like how you fought Toka and Rez on Turtles in Time. You got tag teams like Bebop and Rocksteady, so now you have to fight, Merman and Montana at the same time.
Could you imagine playing this with your friends online? Hooking up with your friends and you play online, and I'm gonna be He-Man. You're gonna be Stondar. Whoever's gonna be this. I mean, maybe they'd even flip the script around. And one time you'd be the evil warriors that go in against the good guys. It would just be
See,
fun.
I like that because I was thinking about this the other day of like how Star Wars Battlefront you could play either the Empire or the Rebels, and it would be so cool to flip it around. And now you're
Yeah.
playing as a particular evil warrior like Triclops, going through and fighting royal guards, and that you're gonna work your way up to getting Castle Grayskull and defeating He-Man inside the throne room of Grayskull, and the Sorceress falls to you, and you won the evil, the forces of evil have won. Skeletor triumphs and
How
makes
cool
you,
would that be? A nice little
yeah.
ending where the evil prevails. I mean, things happen. It's just a fun little different, way to
But
speed
it's
things.
like Star Wars Battlefront. Like it's fun to play as the Empire and try to take out the rebels. Like flip it around. Who wouldn't want to play, as one of the hordemen and playing as Mosquito running around 1, 2, 3, and then you drain the guy. And Leech 1, 2, and then slap your hands on him and drain the guy and he falls down. I mean, it's just like I did with Final Fight 1, 2, 3, and then you pick them up and you backhand them or pile drive them or spin kick them.
Yeah, and you know what? Hey, there's even some games. There were some like side-scrolling games they had to where they gave you fun little different options. Like besides doing the side-scrolling beat 'em up, obviously adventure type thing, where you have a mission. They also had the extra option of where you could just do one-on-one. So using that same game engine, you could just isolate and freeze one, certain type of level, and then put these people that you've been using in the game or fighting against in the game, and you could have the options. So you could have a 2-for-1. You could have the side-scrolling beat 'em up along with a one-on-one fighting game. Maybe they could even tag team it up. But they've done that with other side-scrolling fighting games before, where they give you a 2-for-1. That would I'm just trying to envision replay values of things, and if they ever
well, like with the Tekken games, they have the typical tournament mode where you're fighting one on one, but then have Tekken Force mode where you are going through a gauntlet of like various troops, get to a boss, fight him, move on to the next level. So
they've done stuff like this before, so that would be so fun. I would just
so
love to do that. Especially fighting against people that are in the chat room, knocking out JSP, like I'm going to sit there and be Ram Man, and he's going to be Merman. I'm going to take him out, or taking out Eric Amon, or any of the other people, and then you just knocking everybody out that you want that we know. How fun would that be?
Yeah, and being able to slam them into, various things. And I mean, or like you go into Snake Mountain, and then you end up kind of going to the edge of Snake Mountain, or kind of like a Double Dragon or a Battletoad. If you timed it just right, you got like one of the bad guys towards the edge, 1, 2, 3, and then pop, they go flying over the edge. Like it would be cool to be fighting at Snake Mountain, and you send someone flying over the edge down into the blood falls or out of the mouth of Snake
Right
Mountain.
out of the mouth of lava. Yeah, boom, right down.
Yeah, or in Castle Grayskull, you're fighting on top of Grayskull, and you're fighting and knocking people out. I mean, it's people always get a kick over being able to knock people off the edge of something when you're fighting in these games, and you have to be able to do that.
That bottomless pit or the abyss like Castle Grayskull, just knocking them down.
Yeah, when you're entering the final stage, you have to go over the drawbridge first. You knock people a certain way, they go falling off the drawbridge into the abyss.
Oh, how fun would it be to fight in the house of Shakoti and fighting against Shakoti too? Oh God, how crazy!
Oh boy, that girl would just drive you nuts with all the darkness.
Big rats coming to fight.
The beast first before you get to her, and then when you think it's her, she fades away and Lord Mask shows up. Then you got to fight Lord Mask.
Well, could you picture she's sending like those big rats? She's sending her big rats at you, darklings at you, all sorts of illusion. Yeah. Like even when you fight for one, there's nothing there.
That could be a whole game itself. Is that Shakoti is the villain of a game consisting of all one-shot villains. Like it's the same thing, but you're fighting
Batros
and the Game Master.
Yep, and Batros and all them. That would be Icer.
I mean, all these guys that showed up once, leading all the way to Shakoti and Mask in the House of Darkness. I mean, to fight Negator in his maze, fighting all kinds of variety of things before you get to him. And you got to take out his nerves, while he's fighting. If you take out the nerves, he can't power up anymore. And you get sitting there smacking him around.
You know what's even cooler with Shakotis? Because I can't get this out of my head, is like even certain levels when you're going after something or getting something, it's an illusion and you fall in a hole and you lose half of your life or something. It's like, that would be kind of nuts.
Yeah, you got to wait, because there's always like a pattern. You kind of wait for something to fall to see if it's actually...
Or flicker. Like, maybe there would be some kind of little thing to where there would be a little flicker and you can know that's the illusion at one little second. You got to watch. Man, just like I said, the possibilities are endless, but
tons and tons of stuff. I mean, they get some game programmers who, really know their stuff about He-Man and use stuff from the He-Man cartoon, the She-Ra cartoon. I mean, and you can make it just you could pick. I mean, for She-Ra, you could incorporate nothing but the Great Rebellion characters. You can incorporate the He-Man characters tag teaming with the Great Rebellion characters. Because it would be cool to be. You got Bo and Buzzsaw fighting together simply because you can do that.
Yeah.
Going through various parts of Etheria and taking out various Horde troopers. Oh, it'd be really cool is at one point you get to General Stondar. If you beat him, he becomes a playable character. You unlock him because once you beat him, he joins forces with the Great Rebellion. That would be a great thing too. Like one of these guys you beat. Oh, now you can play as him. I remember Peacekeepers did that. Certain players or certain bosses you fought, if you beat them, they became playable characters and joined you in your fight.
True.
I mean, there's so much stuff that they could do. A He-Man side scroll beat 'em up. That needs to be the hot Christmas item amongst gamers.
Yeah, that's why I mean,
people Black Friday because they want He-Man Champions of Eternity, a side scroll beat 'em up.
Yeah, because don't get me wrong. Again, I mean that's the only reason we're bringing it up is I know that the majority of people said role playing game, and I love role playing games. But I figured that whether I don't know if it'd be turn based or however you do it, I just think that once you're done accomplishing all your missions, kind of the appeal goes away. But it's like with fighting, that appeal almost it never goes away. You always want to
No,
challenge yourself.
times I've played X-Men, Spider-Man, Final Fight, Turtles in Time, Battletoads, all that stuff. I never get tired of it. Like it's still just so much fun to go through and just beat the hell out of random thugs. Then you get to a boss of that level and you try to work. I mean, it's just
I
so much
still play
fun. I
them.
have
I
so much
still
fun
play
playing.
those games. You're right. I still play them. I still play the Streets of Rage, the Final Fights. Final Fights. I still enjoy those after all these years because it's fun. And plus, like I said, when you get it to where if you can play online, you then have replay value where you are always going to challenge your buddies or strangers. You always love competition. That's what makes some of those games so
Yeah,
fun.
and to make it a point to where you have unlockable heroic warriors that you can play as, and vice versa. Whereas you're playing as evil warriors, you would get to a certain point you can unlock Blade and Sorod. I mean, excuse me. I mean, it'd be cool to have Gwildor as like some sort of like accessory that if you find Gwildor, you can advance to the end of the stage using the cosmic key or something like that. But only if
Oh
you
my
find
god! And then
the game.
picture if you go into the past and you can play in pre-Eternia times. That would be so. Oh
That
god!
would be awesome. Then you got to fight,
Dinosaur battles.
fighting dinosaurs and stuff like a
Yeah.
T Rex with
Oh,
King Hiss sitting on top of him at the end of that.
I think we got to stop. We would be here all day. This would never end. And then if you go MYP's way, you get your favorite character. You can finally play as King Grayskull. There went all the fizz. Just
Yep, it pretty much died out like a small rat right now. It's like
I had
a
to
bottle
save
rocket that went nowhere.
I had to save that for you just for fun. But well, man, that was a great like I said discussion on that because that was fun. It's something that God you could only wish and pray could happen someday. That would be a
Yeah,
blessing. And
I
have it.
almost feel like they. I don't know. I'm not a gamer anymore. I only like to play the vintage stuff when I have an opportunity to. But it just seems like everybody's the big popular thing is playing RPG games, whether it's military style based games or stuff like that. That seems to be the big thing. Where side scroll beat 'em ups, I think people of our generation, a few years younger, definitely a few years older, they all of them were very familiar with Turtles and X-Men and the Spider-Man game and Battletoads and
Yeah.
Sunset Riders and all these beat 'em up games. I mean, they're beloved games. I mean, if you mention them to gamers, they all have nothing but positive things to say about Final Fight, Streets of Rage. No, nobody has a bad, but they don't make those games, and I don't know why.
That's a
Like
shame.
I guess I don't know if they just don't test the market for it or what, but I feel like if anybody decides to tackle He-Man again, we need a side scroll beat 'em up
And keep
before
it
anything else.
cartoony type 2D. You don't have to do all this 3D type
No, no,
of
no, no.
stuff.
I want
No,
a flat like
it's
just
just
like
2D stuff.
Final Fight or Turtles, where I
It
mean, you
still
can make
looks
it
good,
in depth as you want,
right?
but I don't want them the screen flipping. I mean, well, it looks cool in Tekken Force mode, so I can't sit there and say that it's a bad thing because it does look
I
good.
would just enjoy the cartoony type graphics. They can have lush, beautiful backgrounds and everything, and
Well,
still
like
stuff like
Capcom,
that.
always had all those great details in their background,
Yeah,
and then Capcom's the
yeah,
one that that did the Final Fight game. So,
yeah. They could do it like that, and it still look great. Well, all right, man.
yes, Mitchell.
Well, we wrapped that up. That was really fun. So, I appreciate everybody that was in the chat room, everything you guys had to say. But before we wrap it up, Tyler, do you have any recommendations? Anything else going on that you want to say before we wrap the show up?
Um, I probably just a recommendation. I don't think I've really got anything else at the top of my head here.
Okay.
Um, but an episode that maybe we'll cover. I'm sure we will at some point, either in a discussion or do a commentary. Is Tale of Two Cities. Another episode that goes heavily overlooked, and I mean, I definitely disregarded it like the redheaded stepchild as a kid because I just felt like this is a episode that doesn't have Skeletor as the villain, and it has some just kind of random made up characters, and that doesn't engross me when I see all these cool looking toys. Why aren't they in the cartoon? But to go back and watch this one as an adult, I appreciate it a hell of a lot more. Plus, it has the same scenario as Slave City, but instead of a Native American Garn, we have an African American Garn,
Mm-hmm.
an evil Queen Belina, who is an African or a black woman, And it's just cool to see, not for pandering purposes, but it's just cool to see a variety of different races on Eternia.
Yes, definitely.
It's just cool. Like they don't present it like He-Man's coming in. Oh, look, there's black people. I've never seen black people before. No, it's just like it's just as normal, but they're on a different part of Eternia, and they're close to another kingdom. So it's not like a place that's inhabited strictly by black people. It's just this is a kingdom with a black woman queen and a great warrior named Garn who's in prisons, just like how Garn is in Slave City. But instead of Lodar, you have Alina, and she has a thing for He-Man when she sees how strong he is.
Right.
And it's the same story pretty much. If you look at Slave City and you watch Tale of Two Cities, you'll see they're virtually the same story.
Definitely.
But it's a heavily overlooked episode. Nobody ever talks about Tale of Two Cities. Nobody does. So I think that one's due time in the spotlight, and it'll be interesting to do a commentary or an episode discussion on that one at some point. Just because it fleshes out the world of Eternia and it's interesting because they make a point to say that people in this region of Eternia think He-Man's a legend. That they're so far removed from everything that happens on the other side, which kind of makes you feel like just how far away is Snake Mountain, Castle Grace from the Royal Palace away from this particular area, because they just know him by name. They don't know him.
Well, now that you recommended it, fans can go ahead and watch it if they haven't watched it in years or never watched it before. And then
not sure if it's on YouTube or not, but if you have the DVDs, don't overlook that episode. Give it a shot. It's a very, very well done episode, and it's interesting to see He-Man get knocked on his butt by just a strong guy, and not necessarily someone who's superpowered, just a really strong, black guy.
Well, all right. Well, save some of the goodness for the fans in case they never seen it.
All right. Yeah, I'm talking too much. I'm trying too hard to sell this episode.
You sold it plenty. Trust me, they want to see it. So, all right. Well, appreciate that. That's a good recommendation. And as for Dirt, the reason we don't have any takeaways, he wasn't able to join us for this episode, in case you're wondering where he's at. But don't worry, he'll be back next week. So no takeaways from Dirt this week. Because he's not.
I imagine he probably would have come up with quite a few jabs. Or who knows?
Yeah.
To us the whole time, we just don't even know it.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe he'll do takeaways when he posts something. But all right. Well, as for me, I'm just going to let you guys know where to go. You can go to fansofpower.com. Go to popculturenetwork.com. Go to hemanworld.com. And on Facebook, go to Masters of the Universe He-Man and She-Ra Ultimate Fan Group. All great places, all great people. So until next time, have a powerful day.
Run express elevator to hell. Going down.
Is that one of the Bill and Ted movies?
No.
What is that? I don't know. See, you stumped me 3 weeks in a row.
It's Bill Paxton from Aliens.
Oh, God. All right. I lost that. All right. Is
that one of the Bill and Ted movies?
I'm a moron. So, I'm going to have to manually knock us off. So, talk to you guys and see you next time.
All right.